Welcome to the second quarterfinal of the Quentin Tarantino World Cup. Fourth seed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood versus eighth seed The Hateful Eight. On paper, it looks like an uphill battle for The Hateful Eight after making it through qualification, but will its incredible visuals be enough to keep its run going in the tournament? The most prevalent criticism of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood stems from its lack of direction and its discursive nature. On occasion, it has certainly been dubbed as one of those films where nothing happens, but Tarantino, a director known for making his mark on every element of the filmmaking process, is not one to make decisions by accident. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is exactly the film he intended to create, and looking at it from an angle where its sole purpose is to live as a love letter to Hollywood, this form of criticism has to be rebuked. Tarantino has no concerns with keeping up momentum, playing host to plenty of nostalgic set pieces and conversations that may seem inane on the surface, but offer much more in afterthought. It's a film so deep-rooted in Hollywood lore, the loosely tied together scenes and storyline are what brings the film to life, rather than taking away from the feature's full offering. In similarity and discussed in its previous matchups, The Hateful Eight has very little plot to actually speak of. Similar to Reservoir Dogs with its limited setting and cast of strong personalities, the plot is a bystander to the infighting and politics of the film's characters. Running almost half an hour longer than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Hateful Eight cares even less for any criticism of its plotting. Particularly good at driving tension and unloading surprises as readily as it does bullets, the film's qualities lie outside the way it tells its story. Only so much can be said for a plotline focused on a group of terrible people locked up in a shack on a cold winter's night. Tarantino consistently ensures his films succeed at the level they need to, but the drawn-out vision of a bygone era in Hollywood wins this one quite easily. The Hateful Eight is little but a character piece, despite having no likable personalities. The levels to which they will go to deceive each other often brings them together, with the film becoming an unpredictable boiling pot. But this also means that their individual personalities don't necessarily stand out. However well performed the characters are, even Samuel L. Jackson and Jennifer Jason Leigh can't rescue the film from its inability to generate likable characters. Whether that was Tarantino's intention or not, the film is called The Hateful Eight. It doesn't make the feature any more of an engaging watch. On the other hand, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood possesses leads akin to Tarantino's most engaging characters to date. Leonardo DiCaprio's Rick Dalton and Brad Pitt's Cliff Booth are fascinating, engrossing personas, made real by the nuances and intricacy from two of their generation's finest actors. DiCaprio's stuttering Dalton, a juxtaposing reflection of his movie star personality, and in fact Pitt's charismatic Booth, could be considered his best performance of all time, and that absolutely stems from both Tarantino's writing and his directing ability when looking to bring the best out of an actor. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is enhanced by a wonderful supporting cast, including Al Pacino, Margot Robbie, and a scene-stealing performance from Mike Moe. The Hateful Eight carries a greater number of heavier roles overall, with a broader usage of the term main cast, but the screen power of Pitt and DiCaprio overrides any ability The Hateful Eight has to win here. Add in the cameos and supporting roles, and it's clear it was never a close contest. During The Hateful Eight's conquest of Death Proof, I suggested that it may have the best visuals of any Tarantino feature, and it would be incredibly difficult to defeat going forward in the category. Unluckily, it happens to be matched with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a beautifully shot impression of 1960s California. Swapping the Hateful Eight's snow-capped mountains for the Hollywood hills makes for an interesting juxtaposition between these two features. Both featuring focus on outdoor drama, rarely seen in Tarantino's filmography, both films are perfect examples of Tarantino's move to all-encompassing blockbusters, from the earlier, cramped films making what they could from lower budgets. With beautiful costumes and radiant highways, backdropped by cloudy deserts and authentic movie sets, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood doesn't have the landscapes to necessarily compete with The Hateful Eight, but it places its audience directly in the world of 1960s Hollywood, a time span so unique it holds legendary status as a specific period in cinematic history. It would be wrong to count out the long sweeping shots filled with the dread of Ennio Morricone's score from The Hateful Eight, because it does stand out for its cinematic excellence. And objectively, The Hateful Eight is a visual marvel, and almost certainly Robert Richardson's career masterpiece. Yet it doesn't pull far enough away to counteract the added quality coming from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's setting, costumes, and immersive nature. It's the closest run set of this matchup, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has to take the point for its overall accomplishments as a visual masterpiece itself. Meaning Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is our second semi-finalist, where it will face off against Django Unchained. Filled with quality performances, beautiful landscape shots, and an obscene amount of blood, The Hateful Eight has all the hallmarks needed to make a great Tarantino film. They're just delivered in the wrong dosage. It's definitely too long, and the characters aren't unique enough to turn The Hateful Eight into the caricature success it set out to be. Reservoir Dogs manages to succeed, with almost the entire cast wearing the same outfit. It can still be classed as a strong feature, and shows off Tarantino's attention to detail in ways some of his more conventional features simply don't manage. But for over 3 hours of runtime, the eventual payoff from the film's seemingly endless conflicts fails to hold it together long enough for The Hateful Eight to ever be considered a classic. To move on to Reservoir Dogs vs. Inglourious Bastards, press the link on screen. For a reminder as to how the tournament works, the link is also on screen.